One of the most cherished values in our society today is that of liberty. Along with justice and equality, liberty is a core principle in any democracy. But it wasn't always like this, especially in Scotland. We take for granted the right to form our own political opinions or to worship in a safe place free from interference and persecution according to our consciences. That civil and religious liberty for all people came at a very, very high price. During the 1680s, Scotland witnessed some of the cruelest and most barbaric persecution of thousands of our own people at the hands of two cruel kings and their troops, all for refusing to acknowledge him as the spiritual head of the Church of Scotland and for refusing to conform to his interference in their way of worshipping. These people were known as the Covenanters because in 1638 they had signed a national covenant in Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh, pledging to recognise only Jesus Christ as the head of the Church, while affirming their allegiance to the King as the head of the state. Thousands of ministers were thrown out of their churches, and people had to gather illegally in the valleys, in the moors of Scotland, just to be able to worship according to their consciences. The penalties for such disobedience, or for simply being caught carrying a Bible on the way to one of these meetings, were very harsh indeed, and often ended in hanging or in drowning, as in the case of the famous Margaret Wilson of Wigtown. She was only 12 years old, and in 1685, for refusing to acknowledge James VII as the head of the church, she was drowned at the stake in the Solway Firth. While the soldiers were tying her to the stake and forcing her under water, she was offered one last chance to denounce the covenant and to pledge her allegiance to the king. She replied by saying that she wouldn't say, "God save the king," but that she would pray for his salvation, because that's what God wills after all, but that she would not recognize him as the head of the church. And so she was forcibly drowned while she was singing one of the Psalms. The Psalms were the great mainstay of the Covenanters. They would be sung on the hilltops, in the valleys, in the homes, in private and in public. The metrical psalms of Scotland to the old Scots melodies would have been beloved by the Covenanters in difficult times and in happy times. And so now we will hear one of these psalms. This is Psalm 43. "O send thy light forth and thy truth, let them be guides to me." And it's sung to a very, very old Scots melody called Martyrs.
O send thy light forth and thy truth, let them be guides to me, and bring me to thine holy hill, in where thy dwellings be. Then will I to God should discourage